Alright guys, so I'm gonna do this video. It's based on working up to your working weight for each day of the week. So squat, bench, deadlift, and even like accessory work. The first thing you need to know is that you always want to start with the working weight in your head of what you're gonna do on that day. So for example, a 200 kilo squat or a 200 kilo deadlift or a 100 kilo bench. You always wanna know what your working weight is and then work back from that. You never sort of wanna jump up guessing what your working weight's gonna be, then find out like you're now only like 2.5 kilos off your working weight. You need to be having bigger jumps between those numbers. And then when you have an idea of your working weight, it doesn't have to be set in stone. So you might have like 5 to 10 kilos either side. So it might be, instead of a 200 kilo squat, things are feeling good that day, you might go 210. Instead of a 100 kilo bench, it might be a 105 kilo bench. But at least you have a good idea of your working weight for the day, and then you begin to work up from it from there. A couple of problems that I see regularly is people working too close to their working weight for reps. So for example, like bench press. I've seen some of the more new or beginner lifters, people haven't really thought about this before. Let's say they're benching 100 kilos, they'll work up to like 95 for a couple of reps, and then they'll go to 100. Versus normally, which you'll hear me run through in a second, you just wanna work up to something like 85 kilos and then go to 90. Or if you're squatting 110 kilos, I see some people work up to like 102.5 or 105, and then they go to their 110. It's just a little too close to your 1 rep max, and there has to be some logic behind it, because the main thing is, once you start getting heavier weights, remember, like, weight is relative to the individual. So for someone like me, 60 kilo bench press is not that hard. For a girl who, like Rhiannon or Anna or any of the girls that train, 60 kilos might be very close to the 1 rep max. So remember, strength is relative, so you have to think about that when you're taking your jumps. But let's start with like a deadlift day. I'm gonna run through some examples of, I've got like 3 to 4 examples of each when you're looking at your deadlift day. So the first thing you need to think about with deadlifts is you wanna be taking at least a 20 to 30 kilo jump for men, and then for females, a 10 to a 20 kilo jump as you're working up to your working weight for that day. So for example, if you're deadlifting 250 that day, you'll start with 70 kilos on the bar, 120, 170, 220, 250. And then you'll kind of go 70 kilos for 5, 120 for 3, 170 for 2, 120 for a single, maybe a double, and then straight to your working weight. As you can see there, I'm going from 70 to 120. That's a bit of a bigger jump than that sort of 20 to 30 kilos. But if you're working at 250, you need to take those heavier jumps. You don't want to be going 70, 100, 120, 150, 170, 200. You just gas yourself out before you got to your working weight. And then same thing goes for if you're doing 150 kilos. You'll go 70 for 5, 100 for 3, 130 for a single or a double, and then straight to your working weight. So you can see like the jumps have to change slightly depending on what your working weight is. It's gonna take you a little longer to get to 250 versus get to 150. And then finally, if you're someone who's deadlifting like 100 kilos or maybe less, this is where your jumps, you won't do as many jumps because it doesn't take you as long to get there. So you might go 60 kilos on the bar, 75 kilos, 90 kilos, and then 100, maybe, because girls can do like a 10 to 20 kilo jump. Or if you're a guy and you're only deadlifting 100 kilos, you'll be roughly around that same sort of jump as well. 60 for 5, 75 for 3, 90 for a double, straight to your working weight for 100. You might even just go 60, 80, straight to 100 if the weights are feeling good. So that's an example for deadlifts. Bench press is slightly different. For men, it's a 10 to 20 kilo jump. For females, I'd say like 5 to 10 kilos. If you're benching 150 kilos on the day, you do something like 70 for 5, 100 for 4, 120 for a double, 135 for a single, then 150. So you can see those jumps, you're going from 70 to 100, that's 30 kilos. That's usually pretty easy for someone who wants to bench press 150, 30 kilos, 20 kilos, 15 kilos, working weight. If you're someone who's doing like 100 kilos, you might go the bar, 50 kilos, 70 kilos, 85 kilos, 100. You can also go like 50, 80, 100, depending on how your warm-ups are going and how experienced you are. For those who are a little weaker, I suppose that's the word, weaker, more like, you know, someone who's learning to lift, or like a light female, or someone who, an inexperienced female or lifter, you'll go, let's say you're benching 60 kilos for the day, you know 60 kilos is in your head, you'll go the bar, you might then go 40 kilos, 50 kilos, 60 kilos. So you can see there's, the bar's 20 kilos, you take a 20 kilo jump to 40, which is fine. Then you'll go 50 kilos, that's that 10 kilo gap, and then you'll do another 10 kilo jump straight to 60. And that's for bench press. So you gotta, and let me just pull this back and slow it down. It's all well and good me throwing the numbers at you, but when I wrote these numbers out, I'm always starting with the end in mind. I'm always thinking, okay, for my bench, I'm waking up to 150 today. So I need to reverse engineer my jumps. I know I can jump from 135 to 150. Okay, cool, so what can I jump from something to 130 with? I'm always just thinking of those jumps, okay, and then you reps get lower the closer you get to your working weight. Another rule is that you don't want to be hitting 5s all the way across the board. You don't want to be 15 kilos off your max, hitting a set of 5, you're going to gas yourself out. You just hit it for a real nice single, rep the weight, and done. Same thing for deadlifts. Squats are basically the same as deadlifts. I'm going to run through it just so people, you know, I'm just going to repeat it again so it gets into your guys' head. If you're squatting 250 that day, you'll go the barbell, 75 kilos, 125, 175, 205, 230, 250. So you can see the jumps are like you're jumping at least 25 or at least 20 kilos as you're working up to those weights. And your reps are going to be pretty low from there. You might go 5, 3, single, 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 and then onto your working weight. If you're someone who's squatting 160 kilos, you'll go bar, 75 kilos, 125, 145, straight to your working weight. And then for those who, again, the more inexperienced lifters, or new lifters, should I say, beginners, if you're working anywhere between like 50 kilos, you might go bar 35, 50. There doesn't have to be much of a jump there. If you're doing like 70 to 100 kilos, you'll go bar either 45 or 65. You can then go to like 85 kilos and then 100 kilos. Or if you're doing like a 70 kilo, you'll go bar 45, 65, then, oh no, sorry, bar 40 kilos, 60 kilos, straight to 70 kilos. The main thing that I want you guys to take away from this video is, again, it's all well and good me throwing you numbers out there, and I wanted to give you the numbers to give you a real good understanding of how this works practically. The first thing is always know the number that you're working up to on that day, right? The second thing is your jumps are relative to your strength, experience, and the number that you're hitting on the day. So someone who's hitting 100 kilos won't have to do as many warm-up sets as someone who's doing 150 kilos on their bench press, for example. Same goes if someone's working up to 250, you will have to take more jumps and take bigger jumps than the individual who's working up to 150 kilos. Now, what I want you guys to be aware of and how you're going to apply this practically to your lifting, specifically if you're here on the gym floor, is know who you're working with and find out what their working weight is. You can then get an understanding of what squat rack you should be on, what bench press you should be on, what deadlift platform you should be on. I don't want to see someone who's deadlifting 100 kilos in with the people who are deadlifting 200 to 250 kilos. You're just going to have to be fucking around with plates constantly. You just want to find a platform. Let's use deadlifts. Find a platform that you're like, okay, I'm working at 135, you're working at 150, that's not too big of a jump, I'll stay with you. You know, or if you're deadlifting 60 kilos, you know, the next person's deadlifting 80 kilos. It's real easy just to take a 10 kilo plate off for the 80 to 60. And then you leave the other people who are putting on 200 to 250 plus kilos, you leave them on their platform. Same goes to if you're deadlifting 250 kilos, you leave the people who are deadlifting 170 kilos, you leave them on their platform and you stick to your own. Really, it just makes your training a lot easier, and also primes you, gets you ready for the day, makes you think about, okay, if this is what I'm gonna be doing, this is the weight that I'm gonna be doing, these are gonna be my jumps. So I wanted to just quickly run through that with you. I hope it gives you quick, sharp details, some practical details. Apply it. Let me know if you have any questions.